Hello everyone, this here is the LEGO Icons Dune Atreides Royal Ornithopter set, which comes with just short of 1,370 pieces. I paid $165 US for this and built it live over on my Twitch channel. This comes with 8 minifigures, which we'll look at up close later in the video. The size is immense, as you can see, relative to a normal minifigure. The length is over 22 inches, almost exactly 57 centimeters, and the width at its widest is about 31 inches, or almost 80 centimeters. You see, it is in fact minifig scaled, and in the movie, these were not small transports. It does not have a lot of interior space because, well, most of the interior space is used for all of the complex mechanisms, all of which work, which you've probably seen demonstrated by now. I'll be demonstrating them more in this video quite a bit because that's where much of the value, if not most of the value, of what you're getting here comes from. I mean, it's just such an expansive thing, especially for something that's intended to be used with minifigures as a vehicle. These are not the previous longest blades that LEGO has made for helicopters and such. No, these are longer. This is the new record holder for longest blade, and I think it's one of the longest plastic elements that LEGO has ever made. They actually give you a box, a specialized box just to hold them, thankfully to help keep them relatively straight, although a lot of people have complained that they have been bent out of the box. In spite of that, mine were slightly bent as well, but these are hyper tough. Let me show you. Okay, if you have a bend, you can fix it by simply overcorrecting the opposite direction. And I can go farther than that. I feel 100% confidence in this. There is no problem with doing this. There's tremendous toughness to the plastic that's used here. And that will just, as you can see, I just put a bend into it and you can easily just kind of set it back to where you want that to be. The flexibility is really important because these are so long. First of all, you want them to kind of flap a little bit realistically. Second of all, you don't want them to be permanently bending from heat or anything, or weight or anything like that. You also don't want them to accidentally break or hurt people. Because the fact is, if you get this and you build it, you're going to be doing this a lot. You're going to be flying around your space. You're going to be showing it to people. Anybody you can possibly find, anybody you can possibly bring near you, you're going to be doing this. You're going to be just swooshing it around and pushing this button on top. That's really easy, very durable, doesn't break apart, does not rely on rubber bands inside of there. There is one large spring, but for the most part, this is just relying on gravity to give it its springiness and its return quality like that. This works great. And it's very, very easy to do. It does require some wrist strength after a while, especially holding this thing from such a distance away. You can do it with 2 hands if you want. That actually helps quite a bit. You can switch up your thumbs if your thumbs get tired as you do this. It's not perfect, but once you get the rhythm of it, I think it feels. You can see that this one's not quite flapping as much there, right? These front ones are flapping a little bit more, but it looks pretty good to me and it feels good. It's all just a matter of balance there. There we go. Yeah, it depends upon where your balance is, but it's so good. And like I said, it's very durable. I have no concerns about this falling apart over time. The internal mechanism does use a ton of Technic, of course, as it absolutely must. I've heard of a lot of complaints about this using too much Technic. I don't understand those complaints at all. There's no way that this could have been done without the use of a tremendous amount of Technic because it's just so large and there are so many mechanisms built in. Another one of the mechanisms that's built in is, well, when you land, you shouldn't have the wings out like this. They should be brought back. So here's how that works. Let me do that again. Out. In, out, in, landed. Brilliant, beautiful, fantastic. Can't do that without a ton of Technic. And this is an absolute triumph of engineering and design for LEGO to get it to be able to do that so simply and to be able to be built. Yes, I am going to be gushing a little bit because there's a lot to gush about here. I'm going to be as objective as I can about this, but I'm also going to be realistic about it and share my true thoughts and feelings as I go along. The amount of engineering that went into this is immense because that's not it, right? Those are 2 mechanisms that had to work together on the exact same objects in the same space, which have a lot of leverage working against them. And they need to be able to not only be easy to operate, but also easy enough for someone who is not an advanced Lego builder to put this together. Yes, it's an 18 plus set, but somebody who has some basic familiarity with putting things together, with doing things with their hands, could build this as their very first Lego set. It has very straightforward instructions. It's not at all frustrating to put together. There's one more thing. When you're not landing, so you're gonna do this. When you're not on the ground, you're gonna fold up the gear. And do that again. So gear down, ramp down, gear out in front. One single knob. It's on either side. So if you're left-handed or right-handed, you can do the same thing. And it's not a big honking red thing with a sticker on it. It's just this. It's kind of like a greebling detail. That's also all built into the inner space. The ramp itself is able to accommodate some minifigures standing on it for the sake of posing, but you're not going to fit minifigures up inside of there because, again, this is full of Technic mechanism and Technic support structure mixed in with good studs on the side construction building to help hold things together, to keep it within the system. Ultimately, this is a system-based set. It just does use a lot of Technic, again, because it absolutely needs to. The main accommodations for minifigs in this, by the way, that right there is a print, and that goes for both sides, is in the cockpit area, which accommodates 2 minifigures. Now you've got the new color of trans black, proper trans black, which is very slightly bluish in tinge, or kind of a cyan tinge when light actually passes through it and actually transmits through it. This is the large UCS X-Wing style of canopy in that color, one on either side. You see which shape this is right here, and then they've got a door and a window up top. These open sideways. That's kind of convenient. I believe it's appropriate. You bring this all the way up, and then inside you have just the 2 spots where you can put minifigures in there. Now, to make it a lot easier to load those in, to load figures into that space, they made just this whole seat subassembly able to just pop out. So you can then go ahead and put your figures in there. Why is this not focusing? There we go. Just sit your minifigures down, take the whole thing and just sit it in there. There is some detail up front, especially for the main pilot. I think they go opposite of the attack helicopter design, where here the pilot does go in the front rather than a gunner. Weapon systems officer would be at the back, or navigator or whatnot. But you can see you've got a couple of flight sticks there, and those are independent to move around if you want to adjust their angle to kind of show this being piloted, I don't know, in a turn or something. And then there's just a simple printed console piece at the front that you can angle. Now, when I was looking at initial official pictures and renders and composites of this when it was first announced, I wasn't too sure about this area in here. It felt like it was just too busy looking. Part of that is from the many different colors of Technic bits that are used in here. It's not just the usual blue pins situation and red axle situation. We've got a lot of yellow in here. That orange really stands out. There are some white pieces, there's some tan pieces. You see some white shows down here as well. And that's definitely something that I don't like to see. I personally don't like to see it a lot on the outside of high-end Technic models that are trying to look especially good, but this is not even a Technic model. This is more of a system model, again, made for minifigs. And I think that all that stuff there definitely does detract. But it's not just that. It's also the shaping in here. I feel like I would have liked to see more blocking, more coverage, more smoothness, because in universe, yes, these things are machines. Yes, they're mechanisms. They have complex mechanisms, but on screen they are not portrayed as having all those mechanisms for all to see on the outside. It's not like exoskeleton kind of design. It's not minimalistic style of design. It's very sleek. It's very covered up. Everything is fared over and as smooth as reasonably possible. And this just doesn't get that across. The studded surfaces, I can definitely accept that as kind of default texture, especially when you start mixing with the smooth surfaces and tiled surfaces and studded back and forth between each other. But this area in here, whether it's depicted open or closed with the wings, just does bother me a bit. Now, the more it's open, the more you can see those extra colors that we don't want to see also. And that is unfortunate. I want to say, if you absolutely do not want to see that, take inventory before you start building of what all parts are in those colors for the connector bits, and get replacements for them in gray and black to start with. Build them as you go. Would have been nice if for something like this, such a high-end model, they had included the option for us, more advanced folks who don't want to see all those colors, to use just the desaturated pieces instead. I understand and I fully support Lego using these colored pieces to make things significantly easier and more successful for folks who are not advanced builders to find the parts, to not call up customer support saying, hey, I am missing these parts, when actually they aren't. They just made mistakes on which pieces that they grabbed. That happens a lot, and it's happening less and less since they're using all these colors. I get that. I understand the science. I come from user experience and human factors. I get all that. But the option for folks who don't want to see that wouldn't cost too much, because these are small pieces, easy to make, cheap to make. And for us, they're easy to get after the fact, but we'd rather not have to for a high-end model. For folks interested, here's what it looks like with those parts desaturated. So this isn't exactly how it would look, but it's very, very close. It makes a big difference, at least in my personal opinion. Yeah, much, much cleaner. In case you're wondering, here's what it looks like on the underside. This is not super presentable. So if you wanted to have this hanging from a ceiling, for example, on permanent display, definitely not its best angle by any means. And I'll just close this up. Should do this with the gravity in the proper orientation. There we go. Yeah, I see even more of that bright color. It's just really not intended to be looked at from down here. You'd probably want to do some modifications to help with that if you're going to have it over your head. Here are the main character minifigs, and while I think these look decent, I don't think they fully capture the kind of a Legoification of the actors in either case. I think that this is a little bit closer to Zendaya, but I think they're nice looking minifigures. I think that they're fine as Dune figures, as their characters, but this is very much intended to be a movie version, modern movie version for each of these. I don't know. I just don't feel like it quite goes there. That's really nice with the mask there. Maybe this is a slightly better face. Let's see what this looks like framed up with the hair. Yeah, a little bit better. That's closer. Not great, but better. Here are the moms and Jason Momoa as himself. Basically, at least the prints here are very good. I think that all of these capture their actors better. This one probably the least good of them, but at least the print on the torso is good, including that skin tone there, which you should be able to print well on white. A little bit of misalignment between the torso and skirt piece here, or lower dress piece, but a really nice figure regardless. I think that everything here has been done really nicely as far as the accessories and the hair piece. This one probably captures the character, the actress and character together the best of what we're seeing here. And because we do have this standard face piece, it would be nice to include a hair piece for this character. And thankfully they did. It's right here. Okay. The only one that they include an alternate headgear piece for. But yeah, I think all of this works out well. Everything that's on the screen here works out well. Yes, that's nicely done. Really nice decisions, I think, made between the different line weights, the different line thicknesses used in here to represent depth, and also different level of texture. Yeah, I think that these are relatively well designed. Here's the dad and Josh Brolin. I think both of these do capture their characters as far as switching them to the very comic style and the super deformed style of Lego minifigures and Lego minifigure faces. I think that both of these work. I look at them, I look at the top cast, and I can see the actresses, Oscar Isaac over here with extra facial hair. I think this works out. Maybe, I don't know if this is the best hair piece, but it at least does work well with the facial hair, which is printed on nice and thick there, and the printing on the torso as well as the armor piece here. All that's pretty nice. Not the best match of the darker gray in there that's printed on the armor piece, but pretty close. Once again, good detailing around the back. And thankfully, we do get alternate faces for these. There's no certainty that we're going to get more different versions of figures from this movie or of characters from this movie, other than, I think, Paul. They'll probably make another smaller set in the future and include a different version of Paul. I personally would expect that, given this specialized one that they did here. It's kind of what that suggests to me. And last but certainly not least, here's the Baron. Certainly not least, because he does come with his stand, and he comes with the ridiculous cape, the most crazy cape of all time, from Lego at least. Lord Business's tie was something special. His tie cape was something special, but this kind of lives in its own space because this is not intended to be a joke. This is nice, the way that it's done. So this is unfortunately the more papery style, more crinkly, flat style of cape. I would have preferred something a little bit more flowy, especially so you could try to get some of the side to side flowy nature of it. But the shape is pretty good. It's printed okay. It's a little bit light. The black ink, I think, is a little bit light here, but I like the way that it's shaped. You can see it's all one piece. It folds over the top. It's got 3 holes folding over the top, so you have 2 folds on the back. So you've got this one fold and you got this fold here. So you're able to split it out to create that, kind of long tail look, but it's not the intent there. But the flexibility is nice, and the stand is included there to hold them up. Unfortunately, underneath there's nothing to see. So I'm not even going to take this off. It's just plain black. Would have been nice to get something there, but you don't need it. So I'm not mad at it. You don't need anything else because this is the only way we see him in the movie. And there's what he looks like on the ground relative to a regular minifigure. So there's that extra little hovering space. These are the leftover pieces here, and I'm happy to report there was no sticker sheet whatsoever. Again, the price of this was $165 US. It's 165 euros, 150 pounds UK, or $215 Canadian for less than 1,400 pieces. The price of this is ultimately very similar to the Star Wars Justifier set, which was highly unjustified in its price not too long ago and only came with tiny number of figures, far less than this, far lower quality. Kind of similar overall size. Obviously, this has all this stuff hanging off, which adds to its width, but there's not a lot of bulk there. The Justifier, I'm going to compare it to that because I think it's a good one to compare it to. Didn't have a lot of interior space for its size. Similar here. The Justifier used up a heck of a lot of its interior structure on mechanism. Its mechanism did almost nothing. This thing's mechanism does all kinds of stuff, and it's not just one mechanism because you got this, and you got this, and all of those mechanisms work great, and they're a joy to play with for an adult. And they're advanced, and they're interesting to put together, and they're very satisfying to have and to see. Just everything about it, in my opinion, is good except for those funky colors, as you can see from the outside. I think that this, as an entire set, is a much better deal than the Justifier was. But realistically, that's not saying all that much because the Justifier is one of the worst priced sets in a very, very long time. But it gives us something to compare it to, and I think has a number of similes. All in all, let me do this. Let me look at this way. This helps to put it into better perspective, the volume of stuff that's here, and keeping in mind that almost all of this is all usable and engineered and interesting, not just empty space, not just hollow space. Although surprisingly, this whole thing is very light for how much light in weight for how much is there. It holds the 2 figures and has all those mechanisms. All that stuff is good. Good selection of figures. I personally would like this to be a bit cheaper. I would be much happier personally with this at like $120, $130. Think about $130. And considering the license, I could easily see it going up to like $140, $139. Yeah, I could see that, and I can feel comfortable with that at about $140. It's $165 in the US. feel like that pushes things a little bit, but not too terribly. I don't think it's completely unreasonable. I would personally like it to be a little bit less, or for that price, if they had also included the alternate pieces that I would like to see, black and gray colored pins and axles and things, then I think I could live with that. Yeah. But all in all, it's such a success of a set. The engineering is just really good. That's the main thing you buy it for. I guess a lot of people would buy it for the figures. I just can't see that myself. It's not how my brain works with Lego. I like Lego as a building system and a building toy company, not as a little super deformed micro figure with almost no articulation company. That's just me personally, my own personal biases. The build that's here is good. It feels like every single part had a purpose. There's no waste. And it's just really interesting. If you don't have space to store it with the wings out, you don't have to. The wings themselves do bend. They will sag over time, definitely. Even if you get them perfectly straight or you receive them perfectly straight, they will sag because that's what gravity does. And there's a certain flexibility to these. That's okay. It'll still be all right. Oh, forgot to mention the windscreens came in a separate bag for each. So those main parts on the sides, plastic bags, but soft, and they were protected. So that's why they aren't all scuffed up. So that's a good thing. I'd like to see more of that in the future. And that definitely helps with the value. Also, we do get this very specialized cape piece, which is a one-off. So that helps with the value overall a little bit. All in all, I'm satisfied with the whole thing. Even as someone who's not super into the IP, into Dune itself, I think some of the minifigures, especially the main ones, could look more like their original, their on-screen characters. But yeah, a little bit cheaper would make me feel better. But where it's at right now doesn't make me feel bad. So those are my thoughts overall. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks to all the folks who followed along as I built this over on Twitch. Be sure to follow me there for more builds in the future between Lego and also stuff like this. My first ever airbrushed Gundam build. Yeah. I mix it up and try to make sure that I stay connected with things other than just Lego, because Lego is not the entire world. And I think in order to have a good perspective on value especially, it's important to try other things like toys and action figures and kits and stuff. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.